Battle of the 35mm. Today, the Mitakon 35mm version 2 f0.95 versus the Fujinon 35mm f2. Smackdown. Catch me after this. What's happening, YouTubers? Thank you for coming back to the channel today. And guess what? We're doing a smackdown between the Mitakon and the Fujifilm 35mm f0.95 versus the f2. We are going to do a series of tests. First test is going to be a bokeh test where we take similar shots with both lenses and see which one has the creamier, nicest bokeh and which one shows you the nicest depth of field. Second test, we are comparing a sharpness test, and we are going to compare apertures on the Mitakon from f0.95, f1.4, f2, f2.8 and f4. Obviously with the Fujinon it only starts at f2, so we'll be comparing at f2, f2.8 and f4. Bokeh balls. It's all about bokeh balls when it comes to a shallow depth of field. What is going to have the nicest looking bokeh balls, the Mitakon or the Fujinon? Let's take a look. Okay, so I am now in Lightroom and I have taken a series of images. The first images, which are here highlighted at the bottom in red, are the Mitakon. You will notice in the histogram it shows it at 12mm. It's not actually 12mm, that's the profile the camera was set on to let me know that I had a manual lens on it, and it was actually set to the Samyang just to tell me it was 12mm. Other than that, it is everything, the exposure, the ISO and the shutter speed is exactly what it is. So ignore 12mm, that's just the camera thinking I've got a 12mm lens on it when actually I've got the Mitakon 35mm lens. And the first image, which is highlighted here, is at 0.95. The next one is at f1.4, f2, f2.8 and f4. In green next to it we have the Fuji 35mm f2, and that is at f2 as you can see here under the histogram, followed by an f2.8 which again is highlighted here, and next to it finally at f4. So if we get cracking, the first thing that I want to show you is the difference between both lenses at f2. We are going to, Fujinon is the one on the right, and 0.95, 1.4 and f2, that is the Mitakon at f2. So in terms of comparison with the bokeh balls, at f2 the Fujinon shows us like almost like a lemon shape bokeh ball versus the Mitakon, which is like a hexagonal, so it's a little bit more rounded. So are the bokeh balls in the background versus the background bokeh balls with the Fujinon. And let's just compare some of the other ones. And you can see there actually again more towards the hexagonal, slightly lemon shapes at f2 with the Fujinon. There's a few weird artifacts going on in both. You can see some almost like onioning, if that's a word, going on there, and a little bit also in the Mitakon. So let's come out of that. Let's just check now at 2.8. So the Fuji again is on the right at 2.8, and we are going to go 0.1.4, f2 and 2.8, and we're going to drag that in there. And let's have a check. So at 2.8 they look pretty similar. The Fujinon looks a little bit more rounded. I think I still prefer the Mitakon on the left at 2.8, but that is purely subjective. Some people might prefer the one on the right. They're both decent enough at 2.8. Let's have a look at the blue lights here, or actually the red light at the top, and slightly bigger bokeh balls at 2.8 on the Mitakon versus the Fuji. I'm still finding the bokeh more pleasing on the Mitakon versus the Fujifilm. And let's just have a look at f4. So Fujifilm again on the right and the Mitakon on the left. So bokeh balls a lot smaller at f4, which is to be expected, and a little bit more circular on the Fujinon. Still seeing that kind of hexagonal shape on the Mitakon, and on the bokeh in the background there. I think at f4 the Fujinon looks a little bit more pleasing, but to be honest, it wouldn't. I can't see why I would shoot at f4 if I'm trying to get some nice depth of field or bokeh. Still bigger though on the Mitakon bokeh balls, but they are more rounded on the Fujinon. I think that's purely subjective, whichever you prefer. But let's have a look at the difference in comparison of what f2 is on the Fujinon on the right hand side versus, first of all, we'll do at 1.4 on the Mitakon, and straight away you can see at f2 versus 1.4, the bokeh balls are bigger, more rounded, versus the Fujinon, a lot more pleasing, which is to be expected. No, it's a stop faster at 1.4 versus the f2, and it looks a lot more pleasing. And if we look at the blue ones there, almost circular. You still see a tiny little bit, that's nice and round, versus I don't like these lemony shape bokeh balls here. And finally, let's compare f2 with f0.95. And the Mitakon starts to, at 0.95, also show bokeh balls with the lemon kind of shape like the Fuji does. However, they're bigger and really blurred that background. Much bigger bokeh balls. And let's have a look at the top here. Yeah, you can see it's a big difference. And that is the bokeh test. That was an interesting test. The 0.95 versus the f2 obviously is going to be quite considerably shallower. And in this next test, we are comparing the sharpness between both lenses. So again, in the red, we have the Mitakon from f0.95 right up to f4. And in the green, the Fujinon at f2 to f4. So let's get cracking and let's have a look. So we are going to compare, so at f2 on the right hand side, this here is the Fujinon, and we will compare at f2 first of all, the Mitakon. Slight difference in exposures. The Mitakon, I had to reduce it by a stop again on all of these images because it was just simply bright. So let's zoom in and have a look both at f2 and the Fuji. Let's just zoom right in there as well. Try to get them even. So at f2, you can clearly see the Mitakon shows a lot more detail and is a lot sharper than the Fujinon. That is actually quite surprising. I knew the Mitakon was sharp. I didn't realize it was that sharp compared to the Fujinon. That's actually stumped me. I really didn't realize it was that sharp. Okay, let's compare at f2.8. So that's the Fujinon at f2.8, and you can still see at f2 the Mitakon is still sharper. So let's just bring so that'd be f2.8 there. I think that's still loading up by the looks of it. Okay, so that's now loaded up for the Mitakon. Let's just zoom right in there again. Let's go a little bit deeper. Let's go a little bit deeper. And at 2.8, you can clearly see how sharp the Mitakon is versus the Fujinon. Now, I was roughly about 3 feet away. That is shockingly good versus that. I'm pretty stumped. I really can't believe how sharp that is compared to that. And let's compare at f4. Okay, so it's just loading up the Fujinon on the right, and let's drag f4 from the Mitakon and wait for that to load up. And I'm really zoomed in now. That's now loaded up. You can clearly see a massive difference in sharpness. So what I want to do, I am going to leave the Fujinon at f4 and I want to compare. Let's have a look. So this is a 0.95 file. I'll just drag that in there. Wait for that to render, and I want to compare 0.95 with the Fujinon at f4 just to see what's going on with sharpness. That is at 0.95 versus f4 on the Fujinon. The Mitakon is sharper at 0.95 than the f4 file on the Fujinon. I'm absolutely gobsmacked. Let's just brighten that up a little bit on let's just brighten the file up a little bit on the Fujinon, just so it's even. Okay, it's better. Okay, so at f4, at f0.95, I can categorically tell you that the Mitakon is sharper. Astonishing. The Mitakon was sharper. I think you guys can see with the comparisons. It's amazing that a third-party brand can be sharper than Fujifilm. Mitakon, in my opinion, came out on top. So I hope you guys found this video useful. I don't know what you guys think of the comparison. In my honest opinion, I think these are great lenses. Different lenses for different jobs. If you need an autofocus lens, of course you're going to get the 35mm f2. If you are into the sort of photography like street photography or stuff in general that isn't a fast moving type of photography, then the Mitakon, in my honest opinion, with that f0.95 is the one to go for. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel today. If you like this video, if you found it helpful, please like, please subscribe, follow me on Instagram, and I'll catch you guys real soon on the next one. Cheers.